Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP TV. Today's show is brought to you in part by our friends over at UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Angus and Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you try their best-in-class New York steaks, the filet mignons, and of course the king of all, those cowboy cut and tomahawk cut ribeyes. Certainly the best I've ever had, likely be the best you've ever had as well. Also, those Prime Angus and Wagyu burgers, clearly the best I've ever had. And yes, check them out at UppercutChops.com. That's UppercutChops.com. Or give them a call and find out what's for dinner. 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935 for UppercutChops.com. Yes! All right, welcome in everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates from coast to coast. And of course, right here in Las Vegas, special hello to our friends on KVGK and KJPT Radio, as well as everybody else watching on Comcast, Cox, Spectrum, Frontier, Time Warner, and WOW Cable affiliates, and Hotel TV in over 500,000 rooms from coast to coast. Let's get into it. Think about this, folks. There have been so many changes in sports, so many changes in rules, because you have this group and that group that wants to have a specific agenda met. And let's go to baseball. And now, here's the funny thing. Well, it's not really so funny, but the idea of limitations in the game, whether it's time, whether it's rules, whether it's bigger bags, whatever, and then we have these ridiculous amount of pitches that could be thrown, whether it's a grade school game, a high school game, American Legion game, or in the system or the pros. The whole thing is just stupid. Everybody's watching pitch counts. And before I get into the story, folks, I want you to realize that as a former pitcher, I can tell you, a pitcher will throw well over 200 times in one day when they're starting a game on that day, if they're the starting pitcher. Meaning, in my warm-up, 100 years ago, back when I played, well, if you know what I mean, right? So the idea, we start out with a short toss game, then we'll go to long toss, then we'll go back to short toss, and then there would be a bullpen session, and then before that, before the game starts, of course, we'd throw up a little bit more, not throw up a little bit more, if you know what I mean. Maybe throw up a little bit, right? But anyway, the reality is, I would throw anywhere from 250 to up to 300 times in one day. And so with today's strength and conditioning, it's a lot different than what we used to do. Back in the day, we used to exercise certain ways, and we wouldn't do any heavyweight training. No, there was none of that. There would be work the forearm, work your wrist, loosen your shoulder up, and that's it. You weren't supposed to do anything big. You weren't supposed to get big muscle mass in your chest, no big pecs, no big deltoids, no big stuff. Pitcher is supposed to have long, lean muscles. And so nowadays, with the pitch counts that high school and college and whatever, they're keeping, and even in the pros, we think about, well, that guy's pitched 100 pitches, so we're going to consider taking him out. So there are rules around this. But think about guys like Denny McClain, who pitched, he won, 30 games 2 years in a row. I think he pitched almost or over 200 complete games. And guess what? He turned out okay. His arm was okay. And you weren't burning arms out, so to say. But by doing certain exercises in the weight room, combined with this overthrowing that they're teaching kids today, no wonder everyone has a Tommy John problem. Right? Kids in high school having Tommy John surgeries and crap like that. I asked Tommy John about that. Tommy, of course, has done a segment, or better yet, he did a show on the Sports Circus. And Tommy was one of those guys that said, well, geez, how come every time my name is mentioned, it's usually for something bad? Well, it's because he was the guy that actually had that original surgery, et cetera, et cetera. The problem is this, folks. We've got an ongoing problem with rules and rules and rules. So here, we'll go to today's top story. And it is a Tennessee high school's baseball season ends in the playoffs. Yes, after what? After a pitch count violation, and it actually wiped out a no-hitter. That's unbelievable. Yeah, that is legit. Connor Cobb threw one pitch over the 120-pitch limit. This is crazy. So this is the Ensworth School down in Tennessee. Saw its baseball season end in a very bizarre way, and their high school team won a playoff game thanks to a dazzling no-hitter effect from their star pitcher. But wait! It was all wiped out due to a Tennessee state rule? What? According to the Tennessean, the school's head coach, Jason Maxwell, had no choice but to report a rules violation related to a pitch count that his team made to the Tennessee Secondary School Athletic Association when Ensworth beat Father Ryan 5-0 in the second game of a best-of-3 Division II AA playoff series. And the win was supposed to tie the series up at 1. But no! But the Ensworth School starting pitcher, Connor Webb, a Vanderbilt commit. Vanderbilt, a very, very good university and a very good baseball school. This guy is a commit to Vandy. He threw 121 pitches in the game, which is one over the 120-pitch count rule that the TSSAA has in place. Cobb racked up 16 strikeouts against no hits over Father Ryan. Now, as a result, of course, the pitch count violation, Father Ryan was given the win and automatically advanced to the next round in the TSSAA Division II AA Middle Region Tournament via forfeit. Let's boo that one again because, folks, that is absolutely ridiculous. I can't even imagine this happening. But then again, when you live in Snowflakeville, this is what happens. Now, according to the Tennessean, the TSSAA's 120-pitch limit is a rule that's been in place since 2017. During the first year of the new rule, pitchers were allowed to finish throwing to the batter who was currently at the plate when they hit the 120-pitch mark. However, that was changed following the 2017 season. Boy, this just goes from bad to worse. And the Tennessean noted that the pitch count violations are reported to the TSSAA during the regular season, but are more frequent in postseason play. Quote, when teams play several consecutive days, close quote. This is unbelievable. I don't even understand this. I would blow the whole system up. It's crazy. How does this even happen in today's time? You think about the idea that, look, even in the World Baseball Classic, so there is, I think, a 100-pitch limit, if I'm not mistaken, or a 90-pitch limit, something to the effect. But what they do, even in the World Baseball Classic, is they let the pitcher finish the at-bat without being penalized for going over the pitch count that's in the World Baseball Classic. And this is high school ball. We're not going to let them finish the batter out. 120 is 120. If that is not the worst crock of BS I've ever heard, or what about you, the listener? If this is not the worst crock of BS that you've ever heard, please chime in. 702-799-9935, 702-799-9935. Contact the Sports Circus immediately. This is crazy. And even if it's after the show, it doesn't matter. You can leave us a message. We will respond on air. I'll respond to it on air. I just can't believe to it. And also, if you want to email, you could do that too. Email your question in at info@thesportscircus.com. info@thesportscircus.com. And I'll make sure that I have your question and I'll answer it, or your comment. If you want to rant about it, go ahead and rant about it, because that's what I'm doing right now. I'm completely befuddled at this. When I play high school ball, we never had such a thing. Oh, but no. In today's Snowflakeville, we've got to have that because somebody might end up hurting their arm. You mean all those kids that are probably supersonic conditioned But then the pitching coaches, in my opinion, are wrecking their arms in the way that they're conditioning, because you don't condition a pitcher in the same way you do as a position player. It is very different, folks. If you don't believe me, go ahead and ask Dr. Google, because Google will probably tell you the same thing. And really, there is a very different workout regimen. And, well, frankly, there are a lot more differences than most people realize when it comes to recovery time for pitchers versus position players. So this whole thing is a steaming pile of BS. And unfortunately, for good old Connor Cobb, who threw a no-no, I think that what it was is probably Jason Maxwell, the school's head coach, said, you know what, kid, you've got a no-no going. I'm going to let you finish this thing out. And he probably asked the team, hey, guys, do you mind? Because you're going to be on the field for a no-hitter, something you'll never forget. I was actually one of the pitchers in a no-hitter in high school myself. Of course, I gave up a bunch of runs. But the fact is, it's something you never forget. And good for Jason Maxwell for leaving him out there, because that is, in my opinion, the right thing to do. Back here on The Circus in just a few moments, folks. Don't go anywhere.
Attention business owners, you and your customers are listening to this right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus is a primetime nationally syndicated program that's carried on ABC, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC sports affiliates across North America, with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at 702-799-9935. Again, 702-799-9935. Or email us at info@thesportscircus.com. That's info@thesportscircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
AMP, the multi-format network, is here to help create, produce, distribute, and sell your content. For more information, send a message to info@aamp.tv. That's info@aamp.tv.
Are you a small business owner or pursuing the dream of starting your own company? Do you know where to start or how to grow that existing business? The American Business Trust Company has the answers you need. The American Business Trust Company can help you with startup capital, business strategy, sales and marketing, and establishing your company with a physical location or on the internet. You decide. You bring the idea, the American Business Trust Company can help with the rest. For a free evaluation, you may visit them online at abtrustco.com. That's abtrustco.com, or call them at 657-600-1876. That's the American Business Trust Company, 657-600-1876. Call them today. They can help your business right away.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UpperCutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes, are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UpperCutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UpperCutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door, without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at UpperCutChops.com or call 702-799-9935. That's 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935. Or make your selection directly at UpperCutChops.com.
You're listening to the Sports Circus, and I'm Mike Golick.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Remaster Cell, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP TV. This segment brought to you in part by our friends over at Cali Vegas, helping people create and host their very own radio, TV, or multimedia talk show. Cali Vegas can help them with getting out of sitting in hours of traffic, commuting back and forth to the same old boring job, and host their very own talk show in their very own home studio. You have an idea? Maybe you want to be a star, have your own television or radio show, maybe your own podcast, maybe your own streaming show. You never know, folks. Give the folks over at Cali Vegas a message. In fact, why don't you email them at info@calivegas.com. That's info@calivegas.com. Yes! All right, welcome back to everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates from coast to coast, including our friends over in Honolulu on CBS Sports 1500 KHKA. And over in California, you may be tuning in and listening with our friends over on KCAA NBC, and that's MSNBC. Also, right here in Las Vegas, KJPT Jackpot Radio and KVGK 97.9 FM. Of course, over in Atlanta, Georgia, big hello to our friends on WDJY 99.1 FM, WAUD, home of the Atlanta Braves, in Auburn, Alabama. And, of course, our friends down in South Florida, WBGY. That covers Marco Island and Naples and all kinds of beautiful places down there in Florida. And all of our other affiliates that are tuning in on the radio. Thanks for joining us. Everybody watching on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Time Warner, and WOW Cable Television. Thank you. And Hotel TV in over 500,000 rooms, gaining 4 million plus impressions per hour. Yes! That is hotel television, folks. Crazy stuff. We have an enormous audience. And, of course, a lot of that audience happens to be what? Yankee fans. You know, sometimes people complain. They say the Yankees do get preferential treatment for this, that, or the other. I don't know about that. I mean, look, I root for the Yankees from time to time, but at the same time, I also root for my beloved Chicago White Sox, which are sort of in the toilet right now, if you know what I mean, but that's okay. I mean, look, every team goes through it at some point. Hell, even the Yankees, last I saw, they were in last place too, but they're playing above 500. Anyway, so when things are going a little bit sideways, Aaron Boone says, you know, we're going to have to make some changes. We're going to move some things around, move some people around, some starting rotation. We're going to get some guys in, get some guys out. In fact, you know, the Aaron Boone story back in 2017, December 1st, when Aaron signed with the New York Yankees, we actually broke that story right here on the Sports Circus. We beat the New York Post by 4 minutes. In fact, good old ESPN had acknowledged the New York Post as breaking the story until I said, no, you don't. I went ahead and called ESPN and said, look, on your bottom line, you actually have it wrong. It was the Sports Circus that broke the story. They said, well, you have to take that up with the New York Post. And I did. They acknowledged it. I went back to ESPN, and they changed the bottom line to say an unknown source broke the story of Aaron Boone. That's ridiculous. And folks wonder why I call ESPN the four-letter network, if you know what I mean. Anyway, so back to the New York Yankees. And it happens that their starting pitcher, Domingo Germán, is a very good one. I like this guy. This guy can deal. He's a strikeout pitcher, but he'll take you 5, 6, 7, 8 innings. He's a good one. In fact, he even had a perfect game going into, well, part of the game. So in other words, not going into part of the game, he had a perfect game after a few innings. So here, let me get into this real quick here. This is according to every media outlet you could think of here. Anyway, the Yankees pitcher, Domingo Germán, got off to a fantastic start against the Minnesota Twins. And Germán's start was so impressive. In fact, the Twinkies manager, Rocco Baldelli, became suspicious about how Germán was able to dominate the Twins starting lineup. Well, after tossing 3 perfect innings, Germán was examined by an umpire as he left the field. What's going on? Well, it started as a routine pitching check because, more rule changes like we talked about in the last segment. more rule changes, and pitching inspections. So there was a routine pitching check until umpire James Hoy started focusing on Germán's throwing hand. And the umpire looked at Germán's pitching hand for a bit and shared a few words with him. Kind of like having tea and biscuits, I suppose. Anyway, well, it turns out that when Germán came out for the fourth inning, he was checked again. And the lengthy second check led to an extremely weird exchange between the umpiring crew and Germán. Imagine that. What could this be? Members of the umpiring crew and the Yankees gathered around Germán during the check. At one point, it appeared that Hoy told Germán, "You have to wash your hands." But Germán was allowed to remain in the game. As he headed toward the mound, Rocco Baldelli, the manager of the Twinkies, flew out of the dugout to find out what the heck happened. And after not getting the answer he wanted, Rocco was ejected from the game. And really, that was more of a booing sequence. So guess what? Let's go ahead and run that one for him. At some point in the chaos, Hoy also appeared to tell Germán, "I told you to wipe it off." Imagine that. Now, Germán's spin rate mysteriously dropped shortly after he was told to wash his hands. Gee, I wonder why. Whatever led to the multiple exams didn't shake Germán on the mound. Of course, he stayed perfect through fourth and fifth innings as well. He lost the perfect game bid in the no-no in the sixth inning. But although he gave up a few hits, and after the second exam, Germán kept the Twins off the scoreboard. He was removed in the seventh with a 4-0 lead. The Yankees ended up winning 6-1. Right? So this guy gave up 3 hits, struck out 11 over 6 1/3. Now, after the game, Aaron Boone claimed that Germán had rosin on his hand when he left the dugout. And that didn't stop Twins social media from going after Germán and the Yankees. Hoy confirmed that he thought Germán had rosin on his hand. And Hoy said he asked Germán to wash his hands to avoid future issues. When Germán came back out, Hoy said he could still feel some rosin on Germán's pinky. So Rocco Baldelli said that he didn't accuse Germán of using an illegal substance on the mound because rosin is rosin. But he said that he argued the call because Germán was allowed to continue pitching after refusing to comply with Hoy's request after the third inning. And Baldelli lost that argument and was forced to watch the rest of the game from elsewhere because of it. That's unbelievable. Look, if you're told to do something, you refuse to do it, that means you're going to get taken out of the game. So ask yourself, did the Yankees get special treatment? A little home field advantage, a little home cooking? The answer, in my opinion, to that is absolutely yes, they did. I mean, look, if he still had some form of illegal substance on his hands after he was initially told to wipe it off, I don't see how the umps allowed him to stay in the game at that point. Preferential treatment. That's the New York Yankees treatment, apparently. I don't know. All I know is that's what happened. Those are the facts, and they're undisputed. So look, they obviously found something on his pitching hand, and for that conversation to occur on the field, as also the video showed it too. So there's compelling evidence here, folks. And if his spin rate truly went down immediately after, then it's obvious the league should have taken action. But did they take action? Absolutely not. Why? In my opinion, home cooking, it's the New York Yankees, and he would never do anything like that. Now, would he? Really? Well, guess what? This is exactly what happened, and the Twins were left holding a bag like, well, what did we do wrong? Our manager gets thrown out for asking the right questions? There's something wrong in Happyville here. Gotham City, I don't know. There's certainly something wrong over there. Batman couldn't even find it. I don't know, maybe they needed the Mystery Machine from Scooby-Doo, because they seem to find everything within the half an hour for the cartoon, if you know what I mean. That's just kind of what happens on that show. But the point is, the Yankees, in my opinion, were given preferential treatment. And do we see the same thing in the National League? Do we see it maybe with the New York Mets? Do we see it with the Dodgers? I don't know. But you know who doesn't see that kind of treatment? The Atlanta Braves don't see that. You know why? Because they don't cheat. And on top of it, they don't have to. They just have a solid team. Those guys know how to play team ball. You've got a bunch of really good players, a really good system. The Atlanta Braves, what do? They find themselves where? Right back in the driver's seat, where they belong in the East, because they are solid from top to bottom. The pitching, rotation, the pen is good. They throw leather. They run. They're the 5-tool team, where you have some teams that really only have, we'll say 3, possibly 4. But those guys down in Atlanta, man, they could ball. They've got all 5 tools out on the field. They know how to play baseball, so they don't have to use these substances. Anyway, folks, when we come back, we're going to stick with baseball, I believe. Yeah, why not? Why not? Almost like a 7th-inning stretch. We're going to go up to Milwaukee and talk a little bit about that. Don't go anywhere. Lots more to come.
Attention business owners, you and your customers are listening to this right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus is a primetime nationally syndicated program that's carried on ABC, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC sports affiliates across North America, with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at 702-799-9935. Again, 702-799-9935, or email us at info@thesportscircus.com. That's info@thesportscircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
So, you want to be in show business. Do people tell you that you're really funny, you have a great personality, and you should have your own talk show? Many of us have been told that, but we don't know how to get started. It's easier than you think. Let the pros at Cali Vegas give you a free talent evaluation. Call 949-445-1119 and learn how quickly you can create, produce, and host your very own talk show. Imagine not having to sit in traffic every day, commuting back and forth to the same old boring job. Get started in television or radio today with your free talent evaluation from Cali Vegas. Call 949-445-1119 or visit them online at calivegas.com. Make your dream come true today and create your new career and learn how to become a television or radio star with the help of Cali Vegas. 949-445-1119. Call now.
Don't call me Norman. Call me Chubsy Ubsy.
There's a drive. Way back. It might be. It could be. And
Hey, everybody. This is Barry Katz from the Industry Standard Podcast, and you're listening to the Sports Circus with Sal Tuzzolino.
back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP TV. This segment brought to you in part by the American Business Trust Company, helping companies with strategy, sales and marketing, capital resources, and establishing companies with physical locations or a presence on the internet. For more information, contact the American Business Trust Company at info@abtrustco.com. That's info@abtrustco.com, and tell them the circus sent you. Yes! All right, welcome back to everybody on TV and radio and streaming and wherever you're at. Sending smoke signals out from Las Vegas right here. All right, last couple segments been baseball. We're sticking with baseball because like the seventh inning stretch, but this time we're going from Atlanta up to Milwaukee. And just like the Braves, actually the Braves went from Milwaukee to Atlanta. Now we're going backwards and we're going from Atlanta to Milwaukee and talking about the seventh inning stretch and the Brewers. How about the Brew Crew? Playing pretty good ball this year. But then again, the Brewers and their fans have a little bit to talk about. And this deals with the extended alcohol sales issue. Now, what have we had recently, folks? We've had this pitch clock nonsense and all these baseball rule changes, which we talked about a little bit in the first segment. If you missed it, go back to the recorded shows on thesportscircus.com, hit the podcast and hit today's date, and boom, you'll get it. Anyway, so the Brewers have decided to reverse the decision to do what? To extend alcohol sales past the seventh inning. Now, Milwaukee Brewers fans will once again be cut off after the seventh inning, which is kind of common in a lot of stadiums. And the Brewers announced that alcohol sales will halt at the conclusion of the seventh inning of home games, reversing course on an April decision to extend sales all the way through the end of the eighth inning. Right? So you're talking one inning. Why does that matter? The games have been sped up. They have less time to drink, I suppose. And of course, the stated reason for the reversal is not overserved fans, but lagging late game sales. Now, that's kind of an interesting point of view. Now, the Brewers were one of 5 teams alongside the Diamondbacks, Astros, Twinkies, Minnesota Twins, and the Texas Rangers to extend alcohol sales this season past the traditional cutoff of the seventh. The seventh inning policy isn't mandated by Major League Baseball, but was the norm across ballparks, as I had stated. Now, with the newly adopted pitch clock, which, of course, that's always preceded, or better yet in this case, followed by a chorus of boos, pitch clock my ass. How stupid. Anyway, with this newly adopted, ridiculous pitch clock idea, roughly 26 minutes off the game times, and, by extension, time to sell booze, some teams sought avenues to recoup the lost concession sales by extending the sales window an extra inning. And frankly, I don't see anything wrong with that, right? If you drink responsibly, whatever, you don't have to be a moron about it. But Brewer spokesman Tyler Barnes told Major League Baseball, MLB.com, that the eighth inning alcohol sales didn't warrant the extended windows. He also said that the team didn't see any serious behavioral issues due to the extended sales. Quote, "We've got 2 homestands under our belts, and there have not been any serious issues with general behavior related to the extended sales. But we've found that it's the amount of time we've extended it by average it out to 15 minutes extra, really. Because it's late in the game, the sale of alcohol and concessions drops off a cliff once you get to the eighth inning. And the amount of sales we were experiencing was just not significant," close quote. Now, why do people stop buying food and drink at the eighth inning? Well, first of all, a lot of stadiums are emptying out. If you're a bad baseball team, well, there's already half the crowd is gone in the seventh inning. But now the Brewers are a decent club, but a lot of people are thinking about where they're going to eat after the game. So typically concession sales drop off after the seventh inning anyway. They'll get their last charge at the seventh inning stretch, and that's pretty much it. Then they start shutting the concession down. Now, the initial decision drew criticism that extended sales might increase the risk of alcohol-related incidents and encourage fans to drive home from stadiums while intoxicated. Phillies pitcher Matt Strom voiced those concerns in April on the Baseball Isn't Boring show by somebody else. And he had said, quote, "The reason we stopped selling alcohol in the 7th before it was to give our fans time to sober up and drive home safe, correct? So now with a faster paced game, and me just being a man of common sense, if the game is going to finish quicker, would we not want to move the beer sales back to the end of the 6th inning to give our fans time to sober up and drive home? Instead, we're going to the 8th, and now you're putting our fans and our family at risk driving home with people who have just drank beers 22 minutes ago," close quote. Now, no other team has extended beer sales with those, have addressed the impact on the sales or otherwise since implementing the change. So I offer this up. People drive home from sporting events and concerts and special events of any kind or whatever, even their bars or whatnot after work. They drive home above the legal limit, which is already a problem. But you cannot remove alcohol from these events. People will stop going in large amounts. Or they'll show up already toasted from their escapades somewhere else, and then they'll show up to the game already loaded, and then they'll drink some more there. Either way, they're going to be driving home possibly under the influence. Now, if that is the case, the problem lies with people's behavior that are going to events or whatnot in the first place. And it's not just because, there's 22 minutes left on the clock and we have to get them sobered up. You're not going to get them sobered up, folks. You're not going to get them sobered up. So, Mr. Strom, listen, it's not going to happen in 22 minutes. The fact is, if they're drinking all game, maybe one beer every other inning or something like that, which seems to be commonplace at games. I've gone to a couple of 100 baseball games, maybe more. And I've seen that over the years and years and years. But it seems to me that his heart is in the right place, his brain is in the right place, but the logic is absolutely flawed. Should Major League Baseball change a rule, that has to be on a stadium-by-stadium basis and a state-by-state basis too. So that is probably where that one ought to sit for now, and we'll see what happens as the Milwaukee Brewers and the balance of the league take that into consideration, because it is a big deal, and people shouldn't be drinking and driving in the first place, if you know what I mean. So a nice round of applause just for that one. Yeah. And so that leads us back to the baseball rule changes over the years. Look, there have been plenty of changes. But let's talk a little bit about these changes. How about the defensive limitations? We've already talked about this pitch clock thing. What about this? Major League Baseball beginning this season, a minimum of 2 infielders must be on either side of second base with their spikes in the dirt as the pitch is delivered. While Major League Baseball has never previously put limits on defensive shifts, this change in keeping with other efforts through the years to improve the balance between offense and defense. This one I don't mind, because traditionally that's where the players are supposed to be. They're supposed to be left and right of second base, or even straddling second base is okay. But you just can't load up one side of the field. It looks like a softball field then. It looks absolutely ridiculous. How about the amended designated hitter rule, which I think is complete lunacy? With the designated hitter rule in place in both leagues now, how ridiculous is that? The official baseball rules have been also amended to afford additional flexibility to starting pitchers who bat for themselves, just like show me the money, Shohei Ohtani. Such a rule and a player will be considered 2 separate people for the purposes of Rule 5.11a. If the player is replaced as a starting pitcher, he can continue as the designated hitter. And if the designated hitter is replaced, he can continue as the starting pitcher. This is really the Ohtani rule, folks. Nonetheless, but no longer can bat for himself if that's the pitcher. So part of the new rule of 5.11b, 5.11b can read as follows. Starting pitcher as designated hitter. It is not mandatory that a club designated hitter for the pitcher. However, in the event a starting pitcher will bat for himself, hence Ohtani, the player will be considered 2 separate people for the purpose of Rule 5.11a. In such cases, the manager should list 10 players on his team lineup card, and this player should be named twice. Yeah, twice. How do you like that? Once the starting pitcher and once as the designated hitter. Thus, if the starting pitcher is replaced, he can continue as a designated hitter. And if the designated hitter is replaced, he can continue as the pitcher, as I mentioned, but no longer hit for himself. If the player is simultaneously replaced both as a starting pitcher and DH, he cannot be replaced by another two-way player, which doesn't make sense, filling both positions. That's basically just the Ohtani rule, and that's not right. It's kind of like the idea that this can be done only once in the initial lineup card by identifying that starting pitcher that will bat for himself in the first place. It just sounds like a bunch of gobbledygook to me. Just like with this extra inning ghost runner garbage. Starting extra innings with a runner on second base. How stupid is that? During the regular season was made a permanent rule change by Major League Baseball. That in itself is unbelievable. It's little league. It's stupid. And it takes the strategy out of the game, and it turns it into an offensive situation, which now the pitchers end up getting tagged for this. And I think it's wrong. And pitcher can't even get a save in the extra innings anyway. Just the whole thing, they've changed too much about baseball. It's stupid. We're going to come back with a little bit more of that when we return right here on the Sports Circus. Don't go anywhere.
Shut up! Shut up! Shut up!
Attention business owners, you and your customers are listening to this right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus is a primetime nationally syndicated program that's carried on ABC, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC sports affiliates across North America, with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at 702-799-9935. Again, 702-799-9935. Or email us at info@thesportscircus.com. That's info@thesportscircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UpperCutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UpperCutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UpperCutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door, without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at UpperCutChops.com or call 702-799-9935. That's 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935. Or make your selection directly at UpperCutChops.com.
Hey, this is Tommy John, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP TV. Folks, make sure to check out thesportscircus.com for our upcoming guests, our prior guests, our recorded shows, which are podcasts, and those are the full episodes, not edited. We don't fix it in the mix. We leave it as it is. So if we say something stupid, believe me, it's out there for everybody to hear. Doesn't matter. It's live, and anything could happen. And it's a circus, and we prove it every day. That's Colonel Bucky saying. So whenever you hear me say it's a circus, and we prove it every day, that's Colonel Bucky, our former producer. And once in a while, he pops back up onto the show, makes a guest appearance here on the show. But also, while you're at thesportscircus.com, check out the partners page. One of our partners has been with us since the very beginning, and that's 7+ years ago. That is the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Check them out at csncoyotes.com for upcoming games and events. The College of Southern Nevada Athletics, csncoyotes.com. Yes! All right, welcome back to everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates from coast to coast. All of our independents as well. Thanks for joining us also on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, and Wow Cable Television affiliates in select markets, as well as Hotel TV in all 210 Nielsen-rated markets across America. A lot of baseball this show, and guess what? We're going to continue with it. Only why? Because we can. A really big issue, and I see this, again, as a former pitcher. This is something that drives me crazy. I'm watching pitching mechanics, and when I watch these guys throw today, I scratch my head and say, who the heck were their pitching coaches? Think about this for a moment. Well, a guy throws the ball, and he falls off the hill, and then the hitter hits a comebacker and drills the pitcher, maybe in the back, in the leg, or on the side of the leg, the back of the leg, whatever the heck it is, maybe in the head, God forbid. The point is, pitchers are hit by comebackers, and when they get hit by comebackers, not only does it not feel good, but a lot of times they get injured. Now, according to a 2014 Bleacher Report article, the Four Letter Network's research found that 12 incidents of pitchers being hit in the head by line drives since 2008. Mind you, this is, 9 years ago. A lot more have happened since then. Anyway, 5 since September between 2012 and 2014. So 5 pitchers were hit in the head. Now, Major League Baseball approved protective caps for pitchers, but pitchers have opted not to wear them. Why? Maybe because they didn't want the heavier, bulky hat. But they do opt to have a 6-inch rubber receiver inside their hat that communicates the pitch call with a computerized voice. And that adds a little bit bulk. But let's get back to this. Okay, fine, they don't want to protect themselves. But how does this happen? I'll tell you how it happens. Look, what we really should be asking here first is why pitchers are not being taught proper mechanics. And I remember this from way back in the day. When you throw a ball as a pitcher, whether you're in the stretch or the windup, when you come down off that plant foot, when you come down and then when you're throwing the ball, whether you're lefty or righty, the first foot comes down, the second foot comes down, you're supposed to be in a position to field your position. And think about this, folks. You have a third baseman, a shortstop, a second baseman, a first baseman. But in between the short and second baseman, what do you have? Second base, but you have a vacancy where the pitcher is the body that's supposed to fill that spot. So if the pitcher is in correct fielding position, that comebacker, that hole right up the middle is already clogged. Now, if you've ever watched Zach Greinke pitch, Zach, as a former shortstop, if I'm not mistaken, Zach is one of the better defensive pitchers that's ever played the game. And this guy is just very, very good. He's probably going to be a Hall of Famer. He'll hit the 3,000 strikeout mark. He's won over 200 games. But he is a Gold Glover and an incredible, incredible fielder. Kind of like Greg Maddux, probably the best pitcher in the last 50 years. The reality is, when you throw the ball, you're supposed to come down into a fielding position. And so that means don't overthrow the ball. And that also means that your feet are in the right position because your mechanics are proper. that means your pitching coach, if you needed one, most pitchers have to have one, or they have consulted with one. So the reality is this: if the foot that comes down first is on the opposite side, even or opposite side of home plate, when you throw the ball, whether you're lefty or righty, so if you're left-handed like me, that would mean my right foot would come down in the middle of home plate or on the right side of home plate. What that would do is that would put my fielding position, my second foot that comes down, my left foot when it comes down after throwing the ball, that means that it's going to come down essentially parallel to my right foot, and I'm going to be in a position to field a baseball if it's hit back to me. Now, if I don't bring my foot down, my right foot down as a lefty, if it ends up on the left side of home plate, that means I'm throwing across my body. And number one, I'm throwing all arm, which is not good. Well, we have a lot of problems with these Tommy John things. But also what it's going to do, it's going to make me fall off the hill. I'm going to be off balance. And by the time I release that ball, when it gets to home plate, my backside is going to be facing home plate rather than my glove. And this is why pitchers are being hit. So all you righties out there, if you're a right-handed pitcher, your left foot, when you're coming down to throw that ball, needs to be even to the middle of home plate or to the left of it. And your right foot, when it follows, should be parallel to your left foot. Now, you just have to imagine, look, this is, on the radio side, this is theater of the mind. Close your eyes and think about this, because those are proper pitching mechanics. But a lot of people are getting cheap hits back up the middle, little dribblers, because why? The pitcher is out of position. And in fact, let's think about the bunt for a moment. You have some speedy guys that have played the game years in and years out. So if me as a lefty, if I'm falling off the hill over to the left side of the infield or to the third base side, that means a left-handed hitter could drag bunt and pull one right down the line, right down the first base line, because I'm not going to be in a position to field that bunt. First baseman is going to go right to first base typically, and they're going to rely on me, the pitcher, to go get that ball. And if I'm not in position, well, I'm going to have to put that ball in my pocket, or if even if the first baseman comes up and tries to field it, well, guess what's going to happen? He's going to have to put it in his pocket, because by that time, the guy bunting the ball is already past him. Now, if you're a right-handed pitcher and you fall off to the left side, that means the pitcher cannot, again, field the ball. They cannot be that infielder to throw the ball to first. Third baseman has to come charging in, and what if there's a guy on second base? He's got to cover third, right? What if there's first and second? The second baseman will go over to first. The shortstop will go to second. And actually, the shortstop will go to third base. The second baseman will go to second. First baseman's going to be where they're at. Who's going to cover? So basically, again, the pitcher is going to have to put it in their pocket, or third baseman's going to have to put it in their pocket. The reality is, bad mechanics, bad pitching mechanics are taught by pitching coaches in today's time, and they're overlooked by managers. And so teams wonder why players are getting hit, pitchers are getting hit, and they are not infielding properly. Well, there's a lot of reasons why, but this goes back to mechanics. Even when I was a freshman in high school, I was taught proper mechanics. As a matter of fact, I'll never forget this, because here I am decades later. And my learning how to throw the ball and bring that right foot down as a lefty, even to home plate or on the right side of home plate, what it did, because I had to exaggerate the move because I was unfamiliar with that, but it essentially, I pulled a groin muscle. And folks, if you've never pulled or torn a groin muscle, literally, it's one of the, and I say literally for all those people that hate the word literally, but it actually is one of those, and they say actually is the same word, if you know what I mean. So the point is, it is a remarkably painful episode to the groin where you're actually extending, as I said it again, you're extending your leg so much further than you're used to doing, and you're pulling and tearing a muscle that you don't typically use. And so the fact is, when you burn that muscle, you'll literally drag, and I said it again, you'll drag your leg for, 5-6 weeks. That's what I did. I had to drag my leg for up to 8 weeks because I couldn't walk normally. But that's part of the learning process, and you learn how to have better mechanics. And those mechanics, yeah, you'll have some short-term pain, but you're going to learn in the long run that you're now potentially preventing yourself from getting a comebacker in the back of the head, which could take you out for good, and you could die from that. So pitching mechanics are being overlooked. And also, kids overthrowing, and I can say kids because they're all younger than me that are on the hill today. All those kids that are throwing the ball today, whether it's little league, high school, or minor league, college, whatever, the reality is they're all overthrowing the ball. And they're all throwing 95, 100 miles an hour, 102 miles an hour. I came out of high school throwing 97, but I didn't overthrow the ball. These kids, unfortunately, are taught to do everything but the right mechanical moves on the pitcher's mound. And what's worse out of all of this is these kids are injuring themselves. And oh, by the way, the pitching coaches are teaching them how to throw pitches that are bad for the ulnar nerve. Of course, that would be like the funny bone. We all know that one, which also is what? The Tommy John situation. The Tommy John situation is the repairing of the ulnar nerve. Now, how does that get injured? From tweaking your wrist from doing what? Throwing sliders. You throw sliders and cutters, and it's really, really bad on the ulnar nerve. Ask any team doctor for any professional club, and even, frankly, for the college clubs. High school clubs aren't going to really know that so much. Generally speaking, the pro teams know this, but that's how these guys end up getting injured so frequently because they're throwing so many sliders. They're throwing so many pitches that tweak the elbow. And frankly, the most dangerous pitch outside of the hardest thing to do on a baseball field is to hit a baseball. It's the hardest thing to do in sports is to hit a fastball. The hardest pitch besides that to hit is a straight change. And folks, you can control the velocity of that straight change by the depth that you hold it in your fingers. And we'll show that on another episode here on the circus. But there are so many mechanical things that kids can do today to help themselves rather hurt themselves. So I suggest these pitching coaches figure it out because all they're doing is hurting the kids. That's going to do it for today. I'm your Ringmaster Sal here on the Sports Circus. And we'll see you next time right here on your favorite station. So until then, go to thesportscircus.com, check out the show page, all of our recorded shows and everything else, our partners, and we'll see you in about 23 hours. So long, everyone.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UpperCutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UpperCutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UpperCutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door, without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at UpperCutChops.com or call 702-799-9935. That's 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935. Or make your selection directly at UpperCutChops.com.